So in the last few years, really, I mean, since the COVID pandemic, sure, but it started a little bit before that, didn't it? The PTZ market has just exploded. Yes. And I think it's been the low end's a little unfair, that mid-range, you know, that $2,000 to $3,000 PTZ that has really driven that forwards for a lot of people. I mean, that sort of started this wave by a huge influx of products in that kind of category. Yeah. But where are we now, a couple of years after the pandemic? Where are we now?
Well, I think there is certainly 3 cameras which have been excellent sellers for us. And between that 2 and 3K, I think it's a really interesting chunk of the market. And here we see probably the greatest volume of sales because people don't just buy one of these, they buy 2 or mainly 3, buy them in 3s.
Oh, these are massively for multi-camera environments.
And they can be used, the 2 to 3K market can be used for live production, but also used for sort of corporate education. They're sort of multi-purpose, the cameras in this price range. They may not have the image quality of the really high-end PTZs, but the feature set and the images are good enough.
I'm always surprised by the image quality. I mean, they mainly have smaller sensors, so you don't get the shallow depth of field and anything like that. But the noise performance is really good on a lot of these cameras.
The latest generation have made a big difference. The previous generation in this market, the 2 to 3K, were not great in low light, let's be honest. They did struggle a little bit. But now we're getting to a later generation of sensors, better noise reduction. We're seeing much better low light performance in this 2 to 3K price bracket.
So you mentioned you had 3 sort of favourite cameras.
3 favourites, exactly. First one would be the Canon CRM300. It's been out for quite a while now, but this is an excellent all-rounder. 20 times optical zoom. It's a lovely looking little camera, but what I particularly like about it is the menu system. Yeah. It's got a menu system which anybody who's used to camcorders is going to pick up with no problem at all. You can of course use it in full autopilot automatically, or you can manually use shutter, aperture, gain, just like you would with any other camera. So that probably also for price point, this is the lowest of the cameras I'm going to talk about. So CRM300, bang per buck, a lovely little camera.
Image quality is great, the features are great. Am I right in thinking it's got some NDI?
It has, as standard, it has NDI HX, a compressed version of NDI built into it, which is something you normally have to pay a license for. Certainly with the Panasonic cameras, and on all but a couple of them, you have to pay $250, I think, to get that NDI HX. Okay. So if you like NDI, it's an absolute bargain.
So if you're using it with a computer with vMix or Wirecast on it, that will work really nicely.
That's right. If you're using software-based vision mixers or even TriCasters, this is a really good buy for you. Because you can get the pictures, the control, and even the power down one cable. You can imagine cabling up a live event just like that is so much easier.
Absolutely. These small PTZs will be used a lot for those sort of portable multi-camera productions.
For lectures, for trade shows, where you've got conferences, exactly. Yep. Absolutely perfect. And those longer zoom ranges you get from the smaller sensors also make them great for those sort of...
And also the autofocus is really good, isn't it?
It's excellent. Canon's autofocus is very reliable, very bulletproof. So excellent camera at this price point.
So that's Canon. What are the other 2?
The other 2, I would say, were from BirdDog and Panasonic. Okay. So the new BirdDog 240 is a camera I've been very impressed with the image quality. The previous generation of BirdDog couldn't compete with this latest generation of from PTZs from other manufacturers. They were just using sensors from 5 or 6 years ago. Sure. As a result, the low light, the dynamic range, these things struggled a little bit. What BirdDog have always been amazing with are the features, this full NDI, the ability to output full NDI, which is high quality video just over IP with very low latency for use with TriCasters or software vision mixers from Wirecast, from Telestream or vMix. So in these worlds, this is a king of outputs.
Absolutely. I mean, that NDI decoder and encoder that they've got is what they built their entire company on for good reason. I mean, it's brilliant. It's a fantastic feature.
The latency of it, the quality of that output. And now with their new Silicon 2 upgrade to it, their new firmware, they've got the ability to do SRT and NDI-HX and NDI-HX3, which is a very low latency compressed version of it. So they've checked the kitchen sink at the toolbox, the IP video toolbox, which you get with the 240, but also they've increased the image quality. Because they're using a better sensor, a newer sensor, we're really getting a significant boost in the picture quality from BirdDog with the 240.
Which is super welcome. And I've also loved that the 240's got that little screen on the front for helping find your IP address, which is the biggest problem for me.
Yes. What's your IP address? Yeah, exactly. With Canon and with Panasonic, there are little tools which you can plug in a PC and say, what's my IP address, which work most of the time.
But for very simple people like me, I like having a screen.
A screen which tells you what it is such a time saver.
Absolutely.
Great idea. Thank you, BirdDog. That's a really good innovation. Also, they have what they call the Mohawk tally, a sort of super bright tally system which you can see from 360 degrees around the camera. So it's got a LED light which basically coats the top of it. So you can tally light. You couldn't pretend to miss the tally on a BirdDog camera.
And presumably you can turn that off.
Exactly. Yes, if you want more subtlety, definitely.
Yes. So tell us about the Panasonic.
Panasonic UE50. This is an interesting one. It's the UE50 looks very similar to their previous generation, but in fact it's very different. What I've been most impressed with is its low light ability from a small chip PTZ. It's definitely the best of the sub $3,000 cameras in low light performance. Its zoom range, an optical 24 times zoom, is again best in this sector of the market. Although you can do a digital zoom on both the BirdDog and the Canon, the optical zoom of 24 times is really useful. And this new direct drive motor system, which Panasonic have brought into their very latest PTZs. Direct drive, it's a bit like, it's brushless motors, it's sort of gimbal motors. Most of the PTZs are driven by cogs and gears and traditional motors. You can hear them as they move around. You know it's cogs and gears. If you physically move them, I wouldn't recommend that. It can damage them, certainly when they're switched on. But if you move one when she's switched off, you can feel the gears. Now these eventually loosen, these eventually can cause you mechanical issues. By using brushless motors similar to a gimbal within the PTZ, A, they're much faster at moving, so from going from preset to preset is lightning quick, and B, it's much more repeatable, much more accurate, and much more less likely to go wrong. So I love the new direct drive system from Panasonic. Also love their low light performance and their image quality and the optics which they put in to give that 24 times. So then we've got the three sub 3K cameras from BirdDog, Panasonic and Canon. They all have their advantages. You would have to pay another £250 to get a NDI-HX license for the Pana. So that pushes the price right up if you need that.
In some ways, the Panasonic is the most professional of those three options, though, right?
Yeah, I would say so. Because of the infrastructure Panasonic have already built up, controllers like their RP150, their RP60, they definitely have got that sort of production high ground. The difference between the UE50 and the UE80 is 4K. The UE80 has the ability to output NDI in HD, but it also has more 4K output options. Not the 12 gig SDI, but it does 4K 50-60 frames per second through the HDMI. But if you're not needing that 4K, then it's definitely the pick of the bunch, certainly in the sub £3,000 market. You'd have to pay twice as much to get that 12 gig SDI on a camera.
So I think it's so important for PTZ cameras particularly to actually come and try them out, play with the interface, check that they're going to work for you. Should we talk a little bit about this area that's set up actually behind you that you've set up here in our showroom?
Exactly. The whole reason we built this area to show off PTZs and have a decent quality monitor on it is because I don't think there's anywhere else you could go in the country where you could compare such a diverse range of PTZs, from way up to the sort of £11,000–12,000 market from the £2,000 range. This is And it's really where we can change the lighting in our studio to sort of simulate what you might find in your scenarios. This gives us the ability for people to really judge for themselves what they want out of a PTZ and make their own minds up. Because at the end of the day, it can be subtle differences between these cameras can make your decision much easier when you're comparing not just features, but sort of the look of these cameras. What do the pictures look like? At the end of the day, PTZs are cameras. They have a look and a feel which is different. Different manufacturers have a different look. The auto white balances work in a different way. It's something which is very personal. So you really want to try them to compare them.
Absolutely. So if you do want to book a session to come and actually see some of these, please do get in touch with our sales team with the links to our website down below. And if you want to buy any PTZs or anything else, of course, get in touch with ProV. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you soon.